Good day everyone, so one of my subscribers has asked me to review some of their Nilou gameplay footage, and that's what we will be doing today. Just keep in mind that we are recording over 180p sort of YouTube footage, so it might not come out as clear as it should, but nonetheless hopefully there is something that we can sort of learn from this. So right off the bat, I've watched everything here, and I can say that this person does not use Nilou as often as they should. So one of the key things that you always want to do with your Kokomi or this Nilou team is that you want to cycle through your E abilities and then cycle through your elemental burst. Don't be afraid to use your elemental burst. They're going to come back online. It's one of the cool things about this team, in that even if you don't have your elemental burst, you still have enough elemental skills to keep the reactions and stuff going. Right, so let's just see what this person does. So immediately they start off here. I would start off with Nahida and my party as the first member. They're running here with Nahida and then tagging all the enemies. That's just a sort of way for you to save about like 1 or 2 seconds. So let's see what they're going to do. They're going to stand here. They're going to move to the left and then swap to Nahida. So this is what I sort of mean. What you want to do is just start with Nahida, and then it'll be a lot easier and you can tag these enemies. And also, because you're dashing left, you might run into a problem where this enemy right here at the back, this little big little dendro mushroom or whatever, he has a tendency to fly upwards. So what's better is for you to dash right instead, and perhaps like sort of like stagger him with some of your abilities, for instance like Nilou's E, DMC's E, etc. Because this guy will tend to sort of go up and then you won't be in range to sort of hit him. And this is why I recommend using Nilou more proactively, because her ult can even hit enemies that are in the air to a certain like height. It's like a cylinder effect that expands. Right, so you've tagged all the enemies. Here is Nahida's elemental burst, way too early for it, but that's okay. And now you're going to use Nilou's E ability, and what you'll now notice is that you're going to put down Kokomi's jellyfish, and then you're going to put down the MC or the Traveler's Q, but you sort of ran outside here, which is like very odd. So just look at this. You put this down, you run outside, and then you run back in, which is like all you needed to do, because these enemies are going to come and like converge onto you. Is literally just stand at that spot, use Kokomi's jellyfish. If they do come towards you, you can always just iframe against them, like dash against the enemy's hitbox, and then at that place then immediately swap to your elemental burst. So this is kind of like just a bit of a roundabout way of doing it, not the most optimal positioning, but nonetheless. So here I would have used Nilou's elemental burst precisely because if you were positioned slightly off or like away, your Kokomi's Hydra would not be able to hit like the little flying enemy right here. So definitely try and use Kokomi's jelly or like her ult or her elemental burst like way after you've done everyone else, just in time for you to refresh the jellyfish. So there is a macro cycle that you need to be aware of with these Nilou teams, and then there are like microcycles within them that you also need to like make sure like kind of line up. So what I mean by that is all of your characters are using their abilities in a rotation, so you're rotating through everyone's abilities, but you want to play in such a way such that every character's individual skills also line up, so that they're available when you sort of need them. So right here you're just going to sort of clean up here with Kokomi, and that's just going to be pretty okay. So this next part is where you sort of stand here and you sort of let the enemies come in. Now I know that I've sort of shown this sort of gameplay in the past, but the point was not the rotations, those were other kinds of videos. The best way to do this is to look at what I've done in my C0 Nilou and Yaivot review, where you can choose to either tag the enemies or you can just sort of run down mid. This is what I sort of prefer to do. And then what you want to try and do with this idea is that you want to set up in a central spot here, so that when you start clearing out these enemies, you might have a leftover jellyfish or a Kale burst or a DMC burst, and then that extra sort of dendron, whatever it cores, will hit then the scorpion and the consecrated beast that are going to come after it. So you definitely want to position towards the back here. Otherwise, you're going to sort of like waste a bit more time where the Kairagi are going to come to you, but then you now have to wait for a consecrated beast to come to you, or you have to like go to them. So that's just like a bit of like a positioning mistake. Nonetheless, so you are here. You don't need to. Did you double tag them? I think no, you didn't tag them yet. Sorry, that was on my video. Right, so you tagged them here, and then you sort of reset to Nilou. That's what we want to do. So yeah, here you are. You would have first wanted to do the jellyfish, then Nahida's ult, then DMC's ult, and then Nilou's ult. And you probably would not have needed Kokomi's ult here, but you do get the cleanup. And so far, it's very nice, evenly distributed damage. So that means that you don't have a risk that these guys will just sort of run away. So that's kind of cool. Right, so you've taken care of them. Now immediately tag here with Nahida. So you're kind of wasting a bit of time there with Kokomi, but nonetheless, that's okay. So here is Nahida. You use Nilou to just sort of help with the consecrated beast. You set up where you need to be, iframe beautifully. That's exactly what you need to do. Iframe once again. You iframe through their attacks. Now go to, I would have done Nilou and then Kokomi, but hey, that's just sort of like gameplay differences. Once again, now quickly go here, swap off Kokomi, tag with Nahida, put up Nahida's elemental burst, go to Nilou's elemental burst, and then you wouldn't have had to sort of take the damage here. So one of the comments you said is that you're careful that you're afraid that your Nahida might die because she's level 50 and so on. But if you play in the correct way, that would not even be a risk. So you can see here immediately, because you haven't played that optimally in terms of cycling your cooldowns, your Kokomi went below half health, which is something that should, if you play perfectly, almost never happen in a team like this. But yeah, right, so that is the first floor. Let's quickly go on to the second floor. I'm going to quickly skip forward here. Right, so we've got the rituals and stuff, so you're just going to dash here, pretty fine, tag everyone, perfect, no problem there. Nilou, no problem, because the enemies are just going to sort of come in. Kokomi jellyfish, really, really nice. DMC, that's exactly what I do. Set that up, and now with Nahida, because you've already tagged them, and I think it was right here in the beginning, you tagged them, you don't need to tag them once again. So Nahida's E lasts for a ridiculously long time, so you don't need to double tag them. So if your Nahida had like lower health here, you would just like iframe that and then just be healed up, and now go to Nilou's elemental burst, so that's not what you're doing here, but that's okay. So you're going to Kokomi instead, and yeah, I mean, the guys grouped up, so you definitely got the advantage, and you then sort of took them out. So yeah, that's pretty fine. And now with these enemies, from my perspective, I like standing in the middle, but that's perhaps more for speedrunning purposes. But it's taking one of the two sides, either left or right, is fine. You tag all the enemies because you load like the field of vision, so it's easy. You don't need to move your camera around as much. One of the things that I would have done perhaps slightly differently is set up my Nilou, Kokomi, and DMC, and then once these little beasts come out, you can then tag them with Nahida. But I mean, you can always retag them again, so that's just like minor differences. So you're here, and now you sort of get caught and you're a bit like staggered and so on. So this is why you've got to also do a bit of like iframing and so on. And this is precisely the point where you just want to cycle through elemental burst like all the way, because these enemies can really reduce your health like so quickly. But nonetheless, you sort of manage this so quickly. They're all taken care of. You've got one enemy left, and because you've got time on the clock, you can obviously then battery off of them. Right, so let's go to Mugu Kinky. And here is the Mugu Kinky part. So this is where I just sort of want to show you exactly how it should have been done. So in one of my little videos here where we sort of reviewed whatever is Jeff's horrible take, the way in which I typically would play this is I'd dash left, hug this guy, sort of attack him, and then you can like try and iframe the damage, go behind this Mugu Kinky, and then you start your setup phase. And the reason why you want to do that is if you stand behind him, this Frost guy, this little, you can see it says Mugu Kinky Galloping Frost, he's like way over there at the end of the map, so you want him to come back towards you in the middle, and by the time he's back in the middle, you would have already set up all of your like abilities. You can see I'm just setting up everything, and now all of the Mugu Kinky are like close by. We just sort of then cycle through our elemental burst, very little risk of actually taking any real damage, and most importantly, everyone here is losing health very evenly. That is the key to beating the Mugu Kinky trio. So what you'll sort of now notice with your gameplay is that is exactly what's not really happening. So you put the jellyfish up, you tag with Nahida, and you just tank with Nahida. Definitely not what I would recommend doing. So yeah, But hey, you sort of like the jellyfish shield and so on. But because you're now standing here in the middle, the galloping frost, this little guy here, you can see you're taking these guys and their health bars down, but this guy is still sort of like he's like way at the back. He's not even taking any damage. So this is like the big problem. Your positioning matters. It's one of those things that I always told people. Nilou Bloom teams are not just about using abilities, but they're so crucial in terms of where you stand. So you can see that enemy is way at the back there, but you're like right here at the front, so he's getting very minimal damage. And now finally he's joined like everyone in the middle. Once again, you want to cycle through your elemental burst, so you're taking a large amount of unnecessary damage there. So here you go, you want to sort of, yes, that's exactly what you want to do. You just want to iframe it with your elemental burst. Unfortunately, in your case, you got caught and your sort of the AMC traveler died there, but that's okay. So hopefully this makes it like clear. Like you can see, you're losing so much health here with Kokomi, and that's precisely because you're using her on field where you should have gone and just use your Nilou elemental burst and then use your Nilou E. You refresh your Nilou E, which will generate particles again for your Kokomi. And if you're then afraid with Kokomi or she loses health, you can use your elemental burst while the jellyfish on the field, you get double healed, etc, etc. So yeah, I think it should be quite obvious by now like what some of the big mistakes are here. So again, Nilou, not Kokomi, Nilou. You go immediately there to Nilou and you sort of take them out, reduce some of their health and so on. And this is exactly what we sort of spoke about earlier. Because you didn't position well enough, you've got Galloping Frost here who has like some health left, and you are then obviously running like out of time here on the clock. So this is the thing about standing in the right spot, because if you stand in the correct place, it'll be much easier for you to reduce their health evenly and take them all out at the same time, in which case you'll have more than enough time to just clear very comfortably. So yeah, that's what you could see sort of like in this video. So if we just sort of play this video as it goes forward, you can see everyone in my run here just loses health pretty evenly. They're all sort of grouped up. It's much easier. And even if one or two of these enemies like die before all the others do, because they stood around each other, you can see here it's much easier for some of the damage to sort of like take them out. But yeah, that is it for this review and all these tips and tricks. So hopefully that can help you. It's all about positioning, about understanding the cooldown cycles. And once you get that right, then yes, these Nilou Bloom teams are just absolutely amazing. Right, thanks for watching. Cheers.